This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who, at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. We have a very hard-hitting, important show. There's been news this week that Andrew McCabe, that deputy White House director, deputy FBI director, I'm getting a Freudian slip because it occurred in large part during the Obama administration as well, but that he and Rod Rosenstein, the deputy director of the Justice Department, and Comey and the rest of them were engaged in a coup d'etat against the president. Unbelievable. It's like the book 7 Days in May and the film of that same name. The fact that the FBI would be conspiring with the Justice Department to remove the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, shortly after he took office, claiming that he was a Russian spy, is beyond imagination and beyond belief. Now, we at Freedom Watch, and we're your private Justice Department, we're the Justice Department of the American people. Forget about the Department of Injustice. They'll go after people like the Bundys improperly, in a prosecutorial abuse, in other ways, a tyrannical way. We talked about that last week. We're going to talk about it a little bit more today. They'll go against others. But when it comes to themselves, they circle the wagons and protect themselves. And in fact, that's what the Bundy appeal is all about, because the prosecutors are hoping to get a good decision out of the Ninth Circuit that'll let them off the hook and prevent them from being disbarred and removed from the Department of Justice. But here you have an actual coup d'etat. And the leftist law professor, Alan Dershowitz, confirmed that on cable news just last night. If a leftist is going to say that, you can understand how conservatives and libertarians feel about this. But we have to take action. Now, you know that we have citizens' grand juries on the horizon. You know that they're going to be starting up in Ventura County shortly. We are going to indict, convict, after we try, sentence, and have these sentences enforced, hopefully by the President of the United States, if not by the people themselves, legally and peacefully. It's going to be Andrew McCabe. It's going to be Rod Rosenstein. It's going to be James Comey. It's going to be people like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, the so-called lovebird FBI agents. We're going after them right out of the box, and we need your support. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause. Forget about the Department of Injustice. We just had confirmed last week William Barr as Attorney General. That's worse than a bad joke. This guy's establishment. He is pure Washington deep state. I don't care if he claims to be a Republican. He's a Republican inside out. He's a Democrat in reality. That's what these people are. They're of the same political party. They are not pure Republicans in the mold of Thomas Jefferson. He wasn't a Republican, but he was the precursor of the Republican Party, because he believed that when the government commits tyranny, there is no liberty. And that's what we're talking about here. Barr, who had to get down on his knees, bow down, pledge allegiance to Robert Mueller, admit that his wife goes to Bible study with Robert Mueller's wife, admit that he's a close friend of Robert Mueller. How do you think he was confirmed with over 60 votes in the U.S. Senate? He's now been compromised. So forget about the Justice Department. This guy's going to be no better than the worthless Jeff Sessions. We have to do it ourselves. The American people need to rise up. We need to address this attempted coup d'etat, this treason against the United States, with individuals like Andrew McCabe, former Deputy FBI Director, Rod Rosenstein, an Obama appointee, who remains to this day, incredibly, the Deputy Attorney General at the Justice Department, my former alma mater, I'm sorry to say, James Comey, the former FBI director, and others. And we need, therefore, to clean out the rat's nest and take control. Let me tell you about another rat, a rat named Adam Schiff, the congressman from West Hollywood. Congressman who is now, because they've shown no Russian collusion, particularly in the Senate Intelligence Committee investigation, that's been admitted by an anti-Trumper, establishment Republican rhino Senator Richard Burr, who just subpoenaed my client Jerome Corsi, and we're working on that. They've been admitted that there was no Russian collusion. But that's not enough for the hateful Adam Schiff of the House Intelligence Committee, who announced that he's conducting an investigation into every aspect of the president's financial lives with his business. Now, Adam Schiff from West Hollywood, ironically, is getting into the president's underwear. And this is not something that we can permit. So Freedom Watch, again, as your private Justice Department, is opening an investigation into Adam Schiff's finances. We've got private detectives going into FEC records, Federal Election Commission records, into filings in the House of Representatives, just to start. Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And this very despicable, dishonest congressman needs to be dealt with strongly. And then, of course, we have another congressman, Representative Ilhan Omar, a vehement Jew hater, anti-Christian, you call it anti-Semitic, anti-Judeo-Christian, from Minnesota. We're going to talk about this in our third long segment today. We have Joel Gilbert on, a very fine Hollywood conservative filmmaker who confronts these issues along with the rest of us. It just so happens that there have been allegations that Representative Omar married her own brother to defraud the Immigration Service to become a citizen in the United States. There's a detailed account of that. Associated Press, which is hardly a conservative publication, this goes back several years, but no one will address it. Because you see, in this country, if you're Muslim, short of taking out the World Trade Center, God forbid, you can do anything you want because you just claim that your racists are going against you. You can't be touched. You live on a higher plane than anyone else. Well, you know what? We all deserve to be treated equally in this country, no matter who you are. And there's no protected species, not even the desert tortoise on the Bundy Ranch should be protected in a way that the Bureau of Land Management tried to do it because, in fact, they live off the cattle. They like the cattle. That was a pretext. But there certainly are no protected species among human beings. And this is a vile human being who has made many anti-Semitic statements, even to the point where the increasingly Democrat anti-Semitic Congress had to rebuke her this week. But you know what? She should be removed from Congress. And it's interesting because, you know, people say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, that my client Jerry Corsi is a conspiracy theorist, that others are conspiracy theorists. I'll tell you something. I'll certify. I'm a conspiracy theorist. You know, conspiracies happen. You know what happens? Okay, I used to have a bumper sticker in my office at Judicial Watch. Clinton happens. Conspiracy is any time more than one person act in concert in furtherance of a crime through wire, mail fraud, or whatever, the vehicle. Now, Representative Omar appears to have committed immigration fraud. That is a crime. She had to use the wires. She had to use whatever means through interstate commerce to commit that. She should be held accountable. And years ago, I filed a petition with the U.S. Immigration Service, now part of the Department of Homeland Security, to investigate whether Obama's birth certificate, which he used to justify citizenship and to get a passport, was fraudulent. It clearly was fraudulent, regardless of where he was born, whether it was in Kenya or whether it was in the United States or wherever. But you can't submit a fraud birth certificate to get a passport certificate. I filed a deportation petition. It was never investigated. Obviously, during the Obama administration, it wasn't going to happen. And we got to wake it up during the Trump administration. Of course, he's been vilified for raising legitimate issues about Obama's birth certificate. And we know from an investigation conducted by my client, former Sheriff Joe Arpaio, America's sheriff from Maricopa County, Arizona, with his chief investigator, Mike Zullo, that it is fraudulent. I mean, you can't have a birth certificate It claims that you're African American when the term wasn't even used back in 1961 when Obama was born. The word was either Negro or black. And all other birth certificates in Hawaii say that. But whoever forged this birth certificate made a mistake. They weren't too bright. And there are many other instances of the fraudulent nature of it. Well, fast forward to Representative Omar from Minnesota, the Muslim congressman who's been trashing Jews, Christians, President Trump, and everybody. If she indeed married her brother, and there's some symmetry here to the Prophet Muhammad, who married his 7-year-old daughter and then raped her. Perhaps this is part of radical Islam. And of course, Muhammad is not radical Islam. He is Islam. But if that's the case, then she should be deported. So we're going to be filing another deportation petition with regard to her. Because, we can't be afraid. It's just not a question of political correctness. It's a question of bringing this country back to an equal system of justice for all people. I don't care whether you're white, black, Muslim, yellow, green, blue, or whatever. Okay, we all need to be treated equally. We have a system of justice. It is broken down. We have the Department of Injustice now run by another establishment hack, William Barr. This one, an establishment Republican hack. Before that, we had Democrat establishment hacks, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch running the Department of Justice. It's become the Department of Injustice. Ergo, that's why you need a Freedom Watch. That's why you need a Larry Klayman in his private capacity bringing lawsuits for people that have been aggrieved. That's why you need me serving not just as prosecutor, but as defense attorneys with regard to people like Jerry Corsi, with regard to people like Cliven Bundy. Because somebody needs to have the courage, and we need your support to do it. You're courageous. You're the American people. We know the crisis that we deal with. So in the meantime, go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions, and I'll be right back with the second segment of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Dangerous.
Don't care. Use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Let me tell you what else we're doing at Freedom Watch. We have a leftist media, a rabid leftist media that wants to take this country down, that's promoting socialism, that's promoting communism, that's promoting racial division, that's promoting atheism, that's promoting anti-Semitism, and that even comes from the Jewish left, which actually, and I'm Jewish myself, I'm a Jewish Christian. I believe in Jesus, but I'm going to call it like it is. Jesus called it like it was. He took on the corrupt high priests in the temple, the money changers, and he did that as a Jew. I'm doing this as a Jew. I'm telling you, the leftist media is extremely destructive, not just of this country, but of Israel. It's a danger to the Jewish people, and it's controlling a lot of the media, whether it's Jeff Zucker at CNN, whether it's Andrew Lack at NBC, whether it's others out there. And these are my own people, and I'm embarrassed, and I'm humiliated, and I'm disgusted. And I want people to know that most Jewish people are not this way. They're conservative, generally speaking, and these people, frankly, are traitors to Judaism. So do not hold that out. Do not use that as an excuse for anti-Semitism, but it is whipping up anti-Semitism. Now, we have cases on behalf of our clients, Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Jerry Corsi, against the New York Times, CNN, Jeff Zucker, the CEO of CNN, of Chris Cuomo, of the Huffington Post, of the Rolling Stone, of the Washington Post, and Jeff Bezos, the owner, the richest man in the world. Not all of these people are of the Jewish left, believe me. But they need to be dealt with. And who else will take them on but Larry Klayman and Freedom Watch? Sometimes as part of the public interest, sometimes privately. But this is a matter which needs to be dealt with. And you see, everybody else talks about the fake news media. Even the president talks about it. But who's doing anything about it? It's not enough like my former group, Judicial Watch, which I founded in 1994, to get documents. That's easy. Freedom of Information Act cases are easy. They're not costly. Freedom Watch has a lot of money. Judicial Watch has a lot of money in its bank, probably around $70 to $80 million. But they do mostly Freedom of Information Act. They don't do the heavy lifting. Is it Larry Klayman, a trial lawyer of 42 years, is doing the heavy lifting? I'm taking on the odds here. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't, because we get these leftist judges. But I'm trying. And I'm trying to use the legal system peacefully and legally to do it. And that's the difference between Freedom Watch today and Judicial Watch today, run by Tom Fitton, who isn't a lawyer. So they try to do the easy stuff. But I try to do the hard stuff. I don't say no. I say yes. John F. Kennedy, who would have been a conservative today, talked about not doing the easy stuff, doing the hard stuff, going to the moon, doing whatever needed to be done to restore the nation. And you can see his quotes out on the internet. And that's the way we should be today. We cannot sit back and just fiddle our fingers and hands and play patty cakes getting documents. How many documents do we have? We've got hundreds of thousands of documents, but we don't have justice. And that's what we're seeking at Freedom Watch. And we're going to have justice against this leftist media. We're going to make them pay. We're going to make them hurt. And we're going to put them back on their heels and put them back in their place where they belong to become real journalists again. And it's not just people at CNN or New York Times or Washington Post. Look at Fox News, the two-faced Fox News. Just this week, with regard to the president's emergency order on immigration, you have so-called Judge Andrew Napolitano coming out saying, this is illegal under the law. You've got others like that saying the same thing. You've got Chris Wallace, who every step he can take on his Sunday morning show undercuts the president. These people, Fox News is two-faced, okay? It doesn't really represent the views of our listeners and of the American people because it wants to boost ratings. It wants to have all sides. But this show, Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, we tell it like it is. And I hope that you will take it and share it with your friends. And I hope that you'll send it out on the internet. And I hope you'll push people to our website at freedomwatchusa.org and my private one at larryklayman.com and see what we are doing, because we are waging a second American revolution. Time is short. We're doing it peacefully and legally. We will succeed because God is on our side. Not Allah, but God of the Christians and Jews. And we will be back shortly with our great guest, Joel Gilbert, who will be talking about the situation with Representative Omar of Minnesota and other related issues.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with Joel Gilbert, my very close friend, a patriot, a great film writer and director from Hollywood, frankly, one of the few conservative film directors and producers. Joel, I want to welcome you to the show, Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. In recent weeks, I've been saying we have to have a dual name for it, Special Prosecutor and Special Defense Counsel Larry Klayman.
That's right.
Because of the tyranny at the Justice Department. I mean, these days, I feel more like a defense lawyer because of this tyranny that is emerging. But we have tyranny out of Congress, too. And I'm talking about Representative Ilhan Omar, a Muslim congressman from Minnesota, who, according to many reports going back a few years, has defrauded the U.S. Immigration Service, claiming that she qualifies as an American citizen when it's been reported that she actually married her brother to try to qualify. And of course, we know, I mentioned this in the first segment, it's not inconsistent with the Prophet Muhammad, by the way, of Muslims, of Islamic people of, quote, faith, if you want to call it that. And Muhammad, it's undisputed, married a 7-year-old daughter and then raped her. And he becomes the primary prophet of Islam. So let's talk about Omar. Tell me about what you know about her and how you see this entire scandal shaping up, because just in the last weeks, she's made vehemently anti-Semitic, anti-Christian remarks and has been rebuked even by an increasingly anti-Semitic Democrat party.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Great to be here. The election and positions of Omar were not unexpected to me. This was a phenomenon that I felt was going to happen based on the Democrat Party becoming so radical over the past 10 or 15 years. Myself, yourself, I've, of course, been making films. There's no place like Utopia. Dreams of My Real Father, about Obama's real background, that he was raised and radicalized by his real biological father, Frank Marshall Davis, who was a member of Communist Party USA. So as the Democrat Party has radicalized, they've brought in radicals like we've seen, of course, Ocasio-Cortez, young radical Bernie Sanders campaign worker, got elected in New York. So it wasn't surprising, based on the Democrats' idea, that if an old white guy screaming about revolution and the economy is not fair and the billionaires have all your money and all we got to do is take it from them and we'll give it to you, when wild-eyed, crazy old white guys say this, people kind of yawn and they think the guy is nuts. They picked up a strategy years ago, which was, if we can get women and minorities to say the same thing, we can con minorities and women into voting for this radical agenda, which is against their own interest, and give us power. So people like Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar were simply part of that movement by Democrats to put minorities into office so they could get a larger vote and constituency to take power. So her radical views about Israel, about her relationship with radical Muslim organizations, the views economically that the American economy is unfair and it has to be completely remade. The Marxist ideology and the Islamist ideology coincide in that they both look at the free market system, the U.S. Constitution, free speech as obstacles to power. The white, Christian, hardworking American constitutional ethic is an obstacle to power. So both the left and the Islamists have a passion for destruction, equal passion for destruction. They must destroy the existing society structure to take power, and certainly Israel is the number one target on the path to taking power because it mimics the United States in its freedom-loving democratic order.
Well, Joel, over the last many years, anti-Semitism always has been condemned in this country. Of course, it's no longer being condemned by the Democrats and the left. They've now become part of it. But the way that you could make a statement in the past, now it's getting much more direct, against Jews and against Christians. And remember, Israel is the homeland of Jesus Christ, and he was a Jewish rabbi. Okay, he took on, as I said earlier, the high priests for their corruption. But there's no denying that Jesus Christ was Jewish. So the two religions are merged in many ways. We are the same people. But it became acceptable to tear Israel down. And we now have this boycott movement against Israel, which is gathering steam in the Democrat Party to cut it off economically from the rest of the world. And that's what Omar is putting forth. Other Muslim congressmen are doing that in the House of Representatives. I believe there's one or two more. I forget their names right now. But they are taking hold. And what I take issue with is that if you're Muslim now, short of blowing up the World Trade Center, you can pretty much do anything you want because all you have to do is cry racism and, go to it. And that's what we're dealing with right now. And I've said we all need to be treated equally. It doesn't matter who you are. I went through TSA recently in an airport. I have pre-clearance. I have clear, which means they have my fingerprints, they have my eye prints, etc. And I get pulled to the side. And I say to the TSA agent nicely, because you don't want to really make jokes with them. I have a story about that I'll tell someday.
Yeah.
But I said, I bet if I was Muslim, you wouldn't be doing this. And he said, you're right, Mr. Klayman. He said, I take offense at having to do it too. I'm forced to do this with our regulations.
Yeah.
But this is a reality. I went through, right after 9/11, the Paris airport, de Gaulle. It was just a few weeks after 9/11. There was a Muslim Arab right in front of me reading in Arabic, and he walks right through the security of Delta Airlines, and they gave me the once-over. And, we should all get the once-over.
Yeah, let me comment that, look, it is appalling. Celebrities can tweet or politicians can say something anti-Jewish, anti-white, anti-Christian. Remember, of course, even Joy Behar making a very offensive anti-Christian statement about the vice president. And there's very little uproar, very little outrage. But if someone says something maybe that could be interpreted in a way such as Representative King out of Iowa, that he was lamenting how political correctness had changed the word white or nationalism into bad words, just the implication that maybe he could have said something or meant something anti-black or racist in any way, of course there's outrage. So this double standard is pervading society on every level, whether it's black, white, racism. It goes to the Department of Justice, of course. Someone like Roger Stone has the hammer coming down because they allege that he lied to Congress, whereas we know the litany of lies by all the Democrats they don't even care about. So it is a dangerous division that's happening, and you can see in the political parties how radical the Democrats have become. They literally don't want a border. They don't want to, Trump today is trying to implement this national emergency, but they are literally against keeping criminals in prison. They want to release them into society. So the Democrat Party is so radical that you literally realize they don't want the country. They're anti-American. I have this film called Ameriphobe. It's about Ameriphobia. Essentially that the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, their agenda was hatred of America. And if you don't want a border, you don't want a country. And we're seeing this mentality pervade society to divide anyone who supports and is part of traditional America that built the country, that supports the free market system. I think we're in for more and more difficult times ahead, because if this major party ever takes power, I think it's going to be lights out for the Constitution.
I want to say this too, Joel, is that we want equal justice, okay? If you lie to Congress, okay, as Stone is alleged to have done, that has to be dealt with and has to be punished. Okay, we'll see what comes out in the trial. But on the same token, if you have lies coming from the left, and you have lies coming from people like Andrew McCabe, James Comey, Rod Rosenstein, and others, that needs to be prosecuted as well. So it's not conservative versus liberal or leftist. It's not moderate. Is that we all have to play by the same rules. And, this is not new, but it's gotten so much worse. I remember at Judicial Watch, I brought a case against Wen Ho Lee, the Chinese engineer who was working at Los Alamos Laboratory. And he had links to, it was alleged, to Communist China through his wife, who stole our nuclear codes. And the defense to that was by a lawyer by the name of Brian Sun from Los Angeles, who had political aspirations, that the person who revealed that, my client, Notre Trulock, the head of the Energy Department's investigative section, was a racist against Asian Americans. Okay, now that got Wen Ho Lee off the hook then, basically. I brought a defamation lawsuit against Wen Ho Lee. I deposed him in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. And I asked him, I said, do you think that my client, Notre Trulock, is a racist? And as I remember, it was videotaped. He said, no, this was his lawyer, Brian Sun, that was doing it. And to make a long story short, ultimately, the head of the CIA at the time, the director, William Tennant, filed an affidavit with the court in the Eastern District of Virginia saying that the case had to be shut down because it was compromising national security. Now, how can a defamation case over whether someone falsely branded Notre Trulock a racist be national security? But this is the establishment, whether it's Democrat, Republican, Democrat judges, Republican judges, with few exceptions like Judge Royce Lamberth of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, formerly Stanley Sporkin, who's now retired of that same court, and some others, just a few others. They circle the wagons and protect the establishment. They don't want to hit the big issues. They don't want to confront it. And we do that at Freedom Watch, and you do that as a filmmaker, and that's why you're so valuable.
Well, much. Look, the double standard is just everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, conservatives like Laura Loomer, everyone is kicked off and judged harshly, while leftists get to spew hatred and anti-Semitism like Miss Omar on Twitter. So the conservative world and the Republicans have not found an answer for this, for the double standard, or for the charges, the fear of being branded a racist. And the Democrats are rolling with this concept. Obama was the epitome of it. Most Republicans were afraid to criticize him, afraid to touch it. Any of the issues revolving around his unconstitutional behavior, his fraud about who he was and his background, for fear of being called a racist. And you see that, like you saw with Andrew Gillum in Florida, here's a guy that went to a radical training school, the Rockwood Institute in San Francisco, was trained by white communists in organizing and agitating, as Obama was trained by 60s radicals at the Midwest Academy in Chicago. And these black so-called leaders come out, and they lead the black community down a road that's against their own interest. In my film, There's No Place Like Utopia, I went to Southside Chicago, Detroit. I talked to all these black people. They're against transgenderism. They're against illegals coming into their communities and taking all their jobs, driving down wages. They're against legalizing marijuana. They want more police, not less police. Then, well, do you support Obama? They say yes, because he's black. And the radical leftist white Democrats are using and taking advantage of black voters by propping up black leaders that are simply one of them. Malcolm X talked about this in the 60s. Go on YouTube.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
Yeah,
continue.
Anybody, go on YouTube, just type Malcolm X and white liberals. And he talked about in the 60s, he said to all the black people, he said, white liberals are not your friend. They pretend to be your friend. They try to control everything in your community to get your vote and take power. And then they move on and don't do anything for you. Obama didn't do anything for black people, and Malcolm X saw it way back.
We don't have a lot of time here, but I want to point out that just this week, Kamala Harris, and I'm no fan of Kamala Harris, the former attorney general from California, now senator, we saw her pathetic performance with Judge Kavanaugh and others, is that radical black groups are now attacking her because she's not black enough. I mean, this happened with Muhammad Ali many years ago, too. But now it's worse, and because she married a white guy, she no longer qualifies for the radical black vote. That's where we are at today. They even turn on themselves. I'm not just talking about blacks. So the country's spinning wildly upside down. You need a Joel Gilbert. You need a Freedom Watch. You need a Larry Klayman, because we're not afraid. Our founding fathers were not afraid. So thank you, Joel, for everything you do, my good friend. And we're going to have you back very, very soon, because we need to continue this crusade for justice.
Thanks, Larry.
You're welcome.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
We need Freedom Watch. We need a Larry Klayman. We need a Joel Gilbert. We need other patriots who are willing to put it all on the line for this country. Our founding fathers put it all on the line, whether it was Jefferson, Adams, or Franklin, or the rest of them. They risked their lives, their fortunes, they pledged their sacred honor. We are hanging by a thread. We need to support this president, President Trump. He's our last hope. If you think that Obama was bad, if Trump loses the next presidency, we'll have someone 100 times worse than Obama. And I'm not advocating who to vote for, because I'm in a public interest capacity. You can make up your own decision. But right now we're dealing here with an attempted coup d'etat against the president of the United States. And we need to put these people, whether it's Andrew McCabe, whether it's James Comey, whether it's Rod Rosenstein, whether it's Peter Strzok or Lisa Page, I get them confused. Maybe they're married by now, who knows, although they had an illicit affair. We need to put them in front of a citizen's grand jury. We need to indict them. We need to try them. We need to convict them. We need to sentence them. They need to be held accountable. It's not going to happen from our current Department of Injustice, run by a Republican establishment rhino, as of this week, by the name of William Barr. You know, if they had put my friend Bob Barr in there, who I worked with to impeach Bill Clinton, it would have been different. But this guy's a nothing. He, frankly, is the twilight of his career, and he's just going to be there for another mantle, another trophy to put on his mantle. We need to do it ourselves. We, the American people, need to rise up. And you need to support our investigation of the congressman from West Hollywood, Adam Schiff, who's a hateful, who lies repeatedly, and who is now looking into Trump's finances because they couldn't find anything with regard to Russian collusion. So support our investigation of Adam Schiff. And, of course, let's support what we're doing with regard to Representative Omar, not because we're anti-Muslim, but because everybody needs to be treated the same in this country. And this congressman from Minnesota, a rabid, radical Muslim, I might add, apparently defrauded the Immigration Service to get her citizenship. She needs to be deported. We will be preparing a deportation petition. We'll be asking the Department of Homeland Security to take this seriously. We hope that the president will support it. If there's one person that needs to be removed from government, it's Representative Omar from Minnesota. And, of course, we need to take on the left-wing media because nobody else is doing it. You know, I love Rush Limbaugh. I like what Mark Levin has to say. I support even getting documents at my former group. But that's not enough. You know, with $70 to $80 million in the bank, you need to do more than get documents. We have much less at Freedom Watch. We need your help. Call us, contribute. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Call 844-FW-ETHIC. You can contribute over the phone. But we need your help because we are actually doing something. You know, I'm not there just to get my face on Fox News. I'm there to get results, to get justice. And that's why you need to support our citizens' grand juries, our investigations of Adam Schiff, our soon-to-be filed deportation petition against Representative Omar from Minnesota. And you need to support Freedom Watch in general. See all the things we're doing. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Please contribute because we need to get bigger. We're small. We're the mouse that roared. But you know what? Gideon's army in the Bible succeeded because a few good men and women banded together who believe in something can accomplish more than a bunch of establishment Republican hacks in Congress who have done nothing, who painted the president into a corner on immigration such that he now has to declare a national emergency. So I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, another edition of Special Defense Counsel with Larry Klayman. I wish you all Godspeed because you are the American people. You are the patriots, not these clowns in Washington, not these people that run around in $3,000 Cavalli suits or whatever with cufflinks and everything else who think that they're better than the rest of us. We, the American people, need to rise up. We need to bring about justice, and we need your help. Go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute with tax-deductible contributions. I'll be back next week. Until then, God bless you and your family. God bless America, and God save America.